What is going on, folks? Riddick here. This is your WWE news from Smackdown and other news as well that we're going to get into. Obviously, the White Rabbit is the big talking point of the town. So we'll get into the Smackdown results. I have some results we'll go over, but I got to be honest, I wasn't taking any notes from it or anything like that because I was just absolutely so engrossed in the White Rabbit thing, I'm sure as everyone else is. So we're going to just kind of get caught up to speed on everything we know so far. Now, there is an article I want to discuss real quick, and this one comes from Sportskeeda, who is quoting the Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer. And it has to be the biggest bunch of BS I think I've ever heard, simply because it's dealing with Aleister Black, which we know he was never leaving AEW, especially after his live stream that he did, stating as such. Let's just read it, and then we'll talk about it. So, on Sportskeeda, there's a quote from Dave Meltzer from the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter that says, "There was a quick buzzard spot during a backstage interview on Raw, and the source code on the website included opening lines of the Aleister Black theme," which, we figured that out. No man is ever truly good, no man is ever truly evil. Meaning, when this was first done, they expected Black or wanted to tease Black. Noted Meltzer. Now, I find that to be a big, giant bunch of BS, and I'll tell you why. Sure, maybe Triple H thought he was going to get Aleister Black, to come back, and maybe they were going to do like a QR code themed thing for him, but I highly, highly doubt that it was the White Rabbit stuff. Maybe their idea was they were going to do, something else for him as far as like dealing with these QR codes. But instead, they, are bringing back Bray Wyatt, so they went ahead and are doing the QR code for Bray Wyatt. Because from the very jump, from the very first video of the White Rabbit, it's been very evident that we're heading towards Bray Wyatt. I mean, there's other things you could have pulled out of those first couple clues. But from the very jump, you had, the Hangman game, where the font for "You Did" is in the same lettering that was on Wyatt's shirts. And then, of course, him spelling out demon. The rabbit spells out demon before he guesses the "You Did." And then, of course, the next code takes us to Monday Night Raw, and we get the patricide word, which obviously links back to Bray and him talking about the shrimp boat or the fishing boat, and he burns it, and it goes and sinks and basically kills his father. In the first clue, and then it's been spread throughout, but in the first clue, we have the "Come With Me," which is, another line from the FCW promo by Bray Wyatt all those years ago. So to sit here and try to tell me that it was going to be Aleister Black to start out, not with the clues we've been getting. These clues have been completely fabricated to lean toward Bray Wyatt. Okay? If this was anything remotely true, the idea was probably that they were going to use a QR code to bring, Aleister Black back if they could get him. But I highly doubt it was going to be this particular White Rabbit thing. So whatever Meltzer's blabbing on about here, I don't know. Like I said, the biggest thing I could pull away from it is maybe they were going to do a QR code for Aleister Black. That did not work out. So they went ahead and did it for Bray. And, fashioned it all towards Bray. Because I seriously, they might have had that. Yeah, they had the one with the Aleister Black lyrics, but that's just a little breadcrumb to throw you off, a little red herring to take you off down a different path to throw you off from the scent. Because there's just no way that this was meant to be Aleister Black from the jump. Now, what would be funny is if Aleister Black actually does pop up at Extreme Rules and you're like, whoa, what the hell? You just went on your IG Live and I guess lied to everybody. But hey, when you're trying to avoid like a surprise, when you're trying to keep something a surprise, of course you're going to deny things. But I mean, he looked pretty upset and he was pretty serious about he's not going anywhere as far as AEW is concerned. So it'll look kind of bad on him if he comes back and now all of a sudden he's in WWE. It would look kind of strange for him to be so serious about it, I don't know if that was the right move, if that really is what's going on. But let's face it, that's not what's going on. This is all about Bray Wyatt, especially with the latest clues that we've gotten. Not everything is a coincidence up to this point. There's no way that there's this many things and they're all coincidences. It's just not possible, folks. Let's run this down one more time, just as everyone else has, through the collective effort of social media, Twitter, YouTube, all of us working together, figuring these things out. You know, it's a group effort because not one single one of us is going to figure it all out. We're doing it collectively together, which is really cool. It's a really cool idea, this whole thing, and I think it's working out really, really well, actually. Up until this point, we started out with the White Rabbit song playing in the arenas, and then the lights would go red, and people would pull out their phones like they're the Fireflies, even though they didn't know what the hell was going on. They just did that. And then you have that happen over that weekend at house shows, and then, of course, at the Smackdown, and then we get to Monday Night Raw. And then when we get to Monday Night Raw, we get Austin Theory in the backstage, and we see a QR code behind him. And then later in the night, at 9:23, which is an important number, we see a man in the audience with a QR code. That QR code takes you to the Hangman game where the Rabbit plays Hangman. He's jumping on the letters. He ends up guessing wrong letters, which spell out demon. And then when he does finally guess the full words, it says, "You did." Obviously, the question at the top is, who killed the world? You did. And so right there, that's picked right out of a promo from Bray Wyatt, where it's not worded the same, but it is the same, and it's essentially the same thing, right? Where I didn't make the world the way it is, you did. Then we get to 9:23, where it flashes as a date and a time, because the colons appear and disappear to make it look like a date and a time. Rabbit's going back and forth. The colors are changing from white to blue. The Rabbit has a red eye on one side, but no red eye on the other side. A lot of people thought that, something big was going to happen on SmackDown. It just led to another QR code. I never imagined something big was going to happen. Of course, we see the "Come With Me" and the "Feed Your Head." On this, the Rabbit jumps down the rabbit hole, and then we're off to the races to another QR code, which we then get at SmackDown. And that one is where you have a little mini game, and it's an actual real game. Like when you pull it up on your phone, you can actually play the game, move the rabbit around. You got to get them into the red door that's in the middle of this little maze. Very, old school video game like Pac-Man, Zelda, things like that. And so he goes in the door, and then you get coordinates, and the word coal was the first one whenever this leaked, because this leaked earlier in that day. But the second word was patricide. And of course, patricide meaning to kill one's father. Very weird and creepy. And of course, the coordinates that you get led to Monday Night Raw, the location of Monday Night Raw. The next, Monday Night Raw. That's where those coordinates led to. And what was really cool about it is the fans that came out of the arena that night actually had White Rabbit flyers all on their cars with the coordinates listed as well. And some people thought they were different coordinates. They're not. They take you to the same place. They're just numbered differently in a different way that still takes you to the same place. Okay? So it was just another little thing to make you think, oh, but no, it's the same. It went to the same place. Same coordinates, different numbers. Yes, you can do that. So then we get to Monday Night Raw, and this QR code was a little tricky because they had one on the front of the announce table, and then they flashed one, I think, when Dominic Mysterio was coming out to the ring. But in this one was like, at first you're like, what the hell? Because it's like a TikTok video, and you have multiple little clips of all the different legends in WWE and other things like that, and little clips of rabbits and weird clips that are just kind of thrown in there. And the verbiage is "feed your head," "who killed the world," "feed your head," so forth and so on. The clips are cut so that each legend or individual you see in the video saying one of the words per the sentence, right? And I also would like to point out that when you watch that TikTok video, when you see how the video is kind of laid out and edited together, it's very, very similar, if not damn near identical, to that Firefly Funhouse match that Bray had with John Cena. Okay, if you remember when that started, there was like those weird cuts of classic footage from WWE, and this was very much in that same style. It was very similar. Then, of course, you get a zip code at the end. And little did we know that it went way deeper than that. People that actually opened up the HTML code, this is where they found the Aleister Black first lines of his song, his theme song in WWE. So the zip code takes you to Windham, Maine, I do believe. Or no, that zip code takes you to the White Rabbit Records, okay, in Corbin, Kentucky, which conveniently has a Wyndham Hotel nearby. Now, that's a chain of thousands of hotels, but it's convenient that there's a Wyndham Hotel nearby Corbin, Kentucky. Not only that, but in Corbin, Kentucky, The Fiend did retain his Universal title against The Miz, or Bray Wyatt, or however I forget how that match went, because sometimes he was wrestling as Funhouse Bray a little bit there in that time frame. Irregardless, there was that match in Corbin, Kentucky, but you have White Rabbit Records in Corbin, Kentucky, right? Which, that in and of itself is, you're like, oh, okay, White Rabbit Records, obviously. You see the connection there. But when you go to their YouTube page, okay, the only video they have posted is of the Jefferson Airplane song, White Rabbit, and it was posted 15 years ago. Now, I assume there were several other videos on that page, and they had just hidden them or made them private or whatever. I guess maybe because WWE may have bought the page. I have no idea. All I know is you only see one video they posted 15 years ago, which was that song. And then you go and they posted another video that night of the QR code of another zip code. And that zip code takes you to Windham, Maine, or Maryland, or one of the two. Can't remember exactly right off the top of my head. But I mean, come on, man. You know, how much more obvious can you get? And there's other little tidbits with that previous one that I probably didn't touch on, but I'm sure you guys know what's going on there. Then we get the recent one from Smackdown. And this one flashed on the screen right after a Karrion Kross promo. We go ahead and we scan that one. And we get an image of three little pigs. Okay? The three little pigs doing their thing. And then intercut scenes of like chopped up pigs, and gets all weird and creepy, right? And then it ends with the big bad wolf, and we see some creepy images of those guys, and then like a big bad wolf in a little Red Riding Hood or whatever, very creepy looking. And on the surface, you're like, okay, this just is more weirdness. Oh, you know what I forgot about that last one is the big pink bunny in Italy or wherever that is, the big sculpture. That's what I was forgetting. Just wanted to remind you. So, yeah, we have this weird little three little pigs video, which, you know, on the surface, you're like, okay. You I guess, could make the connection with Huskus the Pig Boy, with the pigs. But it goes so much deeper, because when you look at the corner of the screen that the video's on, there's a small, very small white rabbit down in the corner. And in that image's code is season 10, episode 6, something like that, basically calling out to a TV show, which ironically is an episode of The Simpsons. And White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane plays in that episode, and I'm sure there's a couple other little Easter eggs too. The other thing to note is in the HTML code of this one is really funny, because a lot of people online are like, oh, drink your Ovaltine, like the Christmas Story movie. You know, little Ralphie's sitting there and he's trying to decode, and he's super excited about what it could be, and then of course it's just drink your Ovaltine. So they, in the HTML code, they actually threw that in there as a little gag. It says drink your Ovaltine, which I thought was quite hilarious. And most of this is Sean Ross Sapp that I found this out from. I'm sure other people found it out, but that's who I was looking at on Twitter when I noticed these things, with Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful. And the next thing he posts is that it also leads to a phone number. And you call the phone number, and you get a weird, creepy voice that's clearly speaking backwards and very distorted, okay? So some folks online took it upon themselves to reverse it and try to bring it up to a normal level, and it really started to sound like Bray. And so I did one too, where I adjusted it a little more, because it just seems like things are really, like on the Bravo, Echo, that part, it seems like that's pretty much in line the whole way through. But then the part where he's saying, I am the way and all that stuff, seems like it's a different, completely different pitch. It could even be a different voice. They could both be not Bray, and they're just maybe people trying to sound like Bray just to mess with you. But what they're saying in these things, other than, I don't know what the hell the Bravo Echo thing is, maybe there's some other connection people will dig up. But what's important is the sentences at the end are sentences that he has spoke before, and he has literally posted about on his Twitter page. So I'm going to go ahead and play you the audio of that. We'll play the distorted version first, and then following it, I'll play you the cleaned up as it can get, because I feel like not only did they distort the voice and mess with the pitch and all that, I feel like when he was actually talking into the microphone, he was probably talking through a modulator right through the microphone. That kind of gives him a little bit of a robot twang to his voice, because you can kind of hear that little digitized robot twang in the voice. You can't edit that out. It's very hard to edit that out. So that's kind of there, and I think it's messing with the voice a little. But, of course, you can still adjust the pitch and the speed and reverse it and stuff and get as close as you can. So we'll play the distorted one first, followed by the cleaned up version, and you can see what you think for yourself.
Bravo, Echo, Lima, Alpha, India, Romeo. I am the way into the city of woe. I am the way in.
All right, well, there it is. I don't know. To me, it sounds like Bray, though it gets a little weird when he starts to speak into the sentences. I think it's more with the distorted voice modulator than anything, or it could be somebody else speaking. But I mean, I'm telling you right now, when you hear the Bravo, it's literally Bray's voice. Like, I don't know how anybody's not hearing that if you aren't. But when they say Bravo, it sounds just like him. I'm sure you could go find a promo somewhere in the past where he actually said that word, and then you could match it up. But that word alone does sound like him, and a lot of the other ones do as well. But, I mean, you know, if you don't think so, I don't blame you for not thinking so. You know, it's really hard, especially when it's a modulated voice from the jump. So it's very hard to, like, make it a normal voice. But I don't blame you if you don't hear it. But I hear it, and I'm sure a lot of other people do too. And if you ask me, we're getting Bray Wyatt. Of course, we've been seeing the lantern and the fireflies and the graphics of Extreme Rules. It's only shown on the men's graphic. It's not shown on the women's. You know, I even thought, and I thought this at first, and other people have been thinking it too, that it was like recycled graphics, but it's not. These are brand new graphics. When you go back and look, these are brand new graphics. And they didn't start out that way. Okay, so like I said, they added this lantern and fireflies into these graphics. They knew what they were doing, okay? And that just tells me right there that this is all leading to Bray Wyatt returning. And that leads to this other story that also came from Fightful, where at Extreme Rules, it is believed that we're going to find out, it's going to be revealed who it is, but we may not necessarily see them in person yet. And it's kind of funny because when you think about the Firefly Funhouse, when that first started coming around, we didn't see the Firefly Funhouse right away, right? We kept seeing boxes sitting in the darkness, and they're all smoking. And then the buzzard would pop out of the box. And then he would just sit there and laugh and cough, and that would be it. And that would happen. That went on for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks of the buzzard doing that. And, people were like, what is going on? And then the next one we got was just seeing some creepy doll houses and a rabbit rocking on a rocking horse. A rabbit, looks like a white rabbit nonetheless. And then we pan up to see the creepy doll, which ended up being Abby the Witch, rocking in the chair, and she opens her eyes and she laughs, and it's just all weird and creepy, and it cuts to black. That went on for a couple weeks. It was like 4 weeks later before we finally got the very first actual Firefly Funhouse where Bray appears into the funhouse and says, hey, I'm back, And then the Firefly Funhouses went on for another, forever before he actually appeared in person. So when you think about it, it's just like him to do that, right? I'm sure at Extreme Rules, maybe we get him in person. We don't know. But maybe at Extreme Rules, we get the reveal that it's Bray, much like the day that the Firefly Funhouse debuted. Don't know how they're going to do it. Don't know if he's just going to bring that back. I'm guessing if he has anything to do with it, which he has about 1,000% to do with it, that it's going to be something new and different. It might be in the same vein, but it might be changed up and different. If you ask me, he always likes to evolve and grow his character into something and morph it into something more, something he can really sink his teeth into as the years go by. So I don't fully expect right back to where we were, but I do expect something fresh and different, but maybe in the same vein. So we'll see. But that's where we're at with that. All right, so real quick, we're going to run through these Smackdown results. Like I said, I did not take any notes on it because I was too engrossed in the White Rabbit thing. So we have Bleacher Report pulled up here. We'll just read from it, and I'll give you my thoughts on some of this stuff. First match opening the show was Solo Sikoa and Sami Zayn. They defeat Ricochet and Madcap Moss. Pretty good, fun match to open the show, high energy and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, nice, solid, fun match to open the show. Something a little different we haven't seen. Always nice. Up next was Drew McIntyre versus Austin Theory. Now, what brought this on was Austin Theory was in the back and he was being interviewed, and he's complaining and yiping and griping about Drew McIntyre, saying about how pathetic he was and all that stuff at Clash at the Castle. So Drew, of course, comes up behind him hearing all this, and he gets, oh my God, there's Drew, paranoid about Drew being there. And then, of course, it turns into a match. When we come back from commercial, we get this Karrion Kross promo. There's really strange where he's in back alleys with Scarlett, and they're just dancing and being very, very strange. Very cool, though. It's a very cool promo. But they're dancing, and they're talking about Drew and, basically how he's going to be done for whenever the strap match happens at Extreme Rules. Cool little promo by Karrion Kross, and that was when we got that's when we got the QR code. I think that might have been the only time the QR code flashed. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's when we got the QR code, which we already went over. So, of course, with Drew facing Austin Theory, it didn't last very long because Alpha Academy ended up getting involved. They got the disqualification, and of course, Johnny Gargano rushes to the ring. Numbers game proved too much, though, which brought Kevin Owens out to a thunderous pop. Kevin Owens is absolutely over like crazy, just like Sami Zayn. I'm telling you right now, when this Sami Zayn storyline, when it meets its finish, when we get to the finish line of that, it's going to be absolutely massive when that happens, which clearly I think we're headed toward Owens and Zayn taking the tag team titles from the Usos. And if I was a betting man, I'm going to say that Triple H is going to attempt to drag this out till WrestleMania. And it could happen. I mean, Sami Zayn has the absolute ability to drag this out till WrestleMania. Maybe, maybe not. But I think WrestleMania would be the absolute best place to do this. Because you're seeing these little tiny seeds planted that's where we're going. We haven't even touched the surface yet. Because in the back, we see Sami Zayn sitting there. Kevin Owens walks past him. And Zayn's looking at him, and Owens is looking at him. And he's like, hey, man, you need to get a new shirt, buddy. And then just keeps walking. planting those little seeds, right? And I mean, you could stretch this out pretty far. I don't know if you could make it to WrestleMania, but that would be where I would do it, because could you imagine in that stadium, WrestleMania, night 1 or 2, whatever it is, and finally it's Owens and Zayn against the Usos, and boom, they take the titles. That would be absolutely epic. And I mean, the place would just absolutely go crazy. Of course, you still have backstage tension with Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. And Jay's actually insinuating that Sami Zayn's up to no good, that he's more or less working from the inside to kind of break down the bloodline. I mean, he's already thrown that out there. People have already kind of had those thoughts in their head. And Jay's sitting here just throwing that out there, thinking that, he's going to do this. He's going to somehow break them down from the inside. So he's already bringing that up, which is very interesting. Hey, we'll see. Also, what I'm excited about is L.A. Knight, because we have the Maximum Male models in the back, and they're standing there doing nothing and posing and all this stuff. She's standing there taking pictures of them and telling them, they're going to go for the longest pose. They're going to go for the longest pose ever in Canada or something. I don't know. For the world record of it. Something absolutely ridiculous that's just stupid. Now, Max Dupree walked by them at one point and said this is pathetic or whatever. But there was a second time where he comes by. There was a second time where they're posing, and he just straight up, bam, just knocks them over. And he's like, this is pathetic. He calls them clowns and everything else. And he takes off the Max belt, because like his belt has the logo on it. So he takes that off and throws it at him, and he says, this ain't for me anymore. In fact, maybe it never was. Yeah. Walks away. So that right there, man, tells you L.A. Knight is coming back. And thank God for that, because this whole thing has been an absolute joke. I don't find any enjoyment in it. I think it's stupid and silly and just ridiculous, and get it off my TV. So it looks like maybe we are getting it off my TV, and we're getting L.A. Knight. I would appreciate that. How you bring that guy up and not just have him be L.A. Knight. That whole thing, Vince, I don't know, man. I'm glad Vince is gone. That's all I know. So next up, we had Hit Row versus Los Lotharios. Of course, Angel Garza's doing his little pant trick in the ring. Takes the pants off, throws him in the face. But Hit Row ends up getting the win over Los Lotharios. Top Dollar did his little stunt where he holds, picks up both guys and then slams them down. And then they do their finisher. Ashante Diodonis does a drop kick while Top Dollar suplexing them back. And they get the win. Nothing crazy really happened here. Just a straightforward match. It was real quick, like a couple minutes. It was real quick, obviously, just to get the match on TV. They were struggling a little bit with what their storylines were tonight, just because of the hurricane. Hurricane kind of threw a monkey wrench into the plans. A lot of people couldn't get to the shows. It was the same with Dynamite this week, obviously. So for what they had, they did fine, and if you ask me. Next up, we had Ronda Rousey facing Natalya, and Rousey defeats Natalya, and after she defeats Natalya, the whole match is just pointless. At this point, it's just a match for the sake of a match. It was fine, but the whole point was to get to the end of the match, and then we have Liv Morgan come down with the baseball bat, which was mentioned in promos before. And then they go at it, swinging the bat at each other, and then they have the big Triple H pull apart that he loves to do. And, I mean, it was getting intense. I got to give him that. And Liv's been looking good. A lot of people want to talk down on Liv Morgan. I don't know why. She looks good in what she's doing. She's coming along. She's come a long way. Don't give up on her now. So, that's just me. You do what you do. But I'm not giving up on her now, because she's come a long way, and we'll see what happens going forward. But I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm liking seeing the progress. Ronda, on the other hand, she's just Ronda. The less she speaks, the better. Just beat people up, beat up security guards, and just run amok and all that stuff. That's better. The less she has to say, the better. I just feel like when she has really long-winded promos, she kind of gets lost in it. I don't necessarily blame her. Maybe she's just not a long-winded promo talker. I mean, hey, man, not everybody is. So, I mean, I don't really have a problem with her promos. It's just when they go on and on and on, it starts to get like, okay, I've had enough. So, of course, what happened earlier with Drew McIntyre, Gargano, and Owens, of course, it led to a 6-man tag, but instead of the Vince McMahon way of doing it and giving us a 6-man right after it happened, the 6-man came later in the show for the end of the show. So that was much better. And before we get to that, Imperium came out, all 3 of them, and they were talking about what they were going to do next week and at the pay-per-view. And then Sheamus comes out. Sheamus comes out by himself. Obviously, Butch, Pete Dunne, and Rich Holland could not make it because of the hurricane, so Sheamus was alone. And they used it to their advantage. They had Sheamus go in the ring and stand up to the 3 of them, and of course they beat him down really bad and chop, 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 beat him down. And they were satisfied with what they left behind, and they get out of the ring and they walk away, and he's like, is that all you got? Is that all you got? And then they come back and lay into him some more and really beat him down. And they use his shillelagh against him and everything else. So that's going to be one hell of a match next week with Sheamus versus Gunther, and then, of course, the 6-man tag at Extreme Rules, which is now a no DQ or Donnybrook match, whatever you want to call it. So that should be pretty cool and fun. It's gonna be a banger by all intents and purposes. Then next up we have Shotsy versus Bayley. Bayley comes out. Then Shotsy comes out, and we have her tank. Now, as reported by Fightful Select, the tank has been flown to the show 3 weeks in a row now and has yet to be used, but finally on this night they used the tank, which actually was cool because it's her original tank. It's not that big crazy looking thing they came up with. This is like the original tank that she was using. Not the original one that was the Power Wheels, but this one's like the original one when she was, getting bigger in NXT and first came up to the main roster. This was that original tank. And I thought it was cool because it actually had, and I don't remember if this did this before, maybe somebody can tell me, but when she fires the cannon, it actually shot pyro out of the cannon, and above the ring there was like an explosion, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, I can't remember if that happened before. You guys can let me know. But in the end, Bayley defeats Shotsy, and then she takes her and she's going to put her in a ladder, and she's going to smash her in the ladder, right? But Bianca Belair comes out for the save, and Bayley retreats, saves Shotsy from getting smashed in the ladder, and then that's how we go out of the segment with that one. And then we got to the 6-man tag with McIntyre, Owens, and Gargano defeating Austin Theory and Alpha Academy. Wouldn't expect anything less, honestly, but it was a good match, fun match. And here you have another tag team in Gargano and McIntyre. I think they were the Evolve Tag Team Champions, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it was. They were tag team champions of some sort, the 2 of them, so this is not, unfamiliar territory for them 2 to work together. If in case anybody didn't know that. McIntyre, Gargano, and Owens get the victory, and the show goes off the air, sends people home happy. And that's really, like I said, I just read this off Bleacher Report because I wasn't paying attention to most of it while I'm sitting here. Oh, the White Rabbit. I need to figure out the White Rabbit. Oh, I'm obsessed with the White Rabbit. Tweet, 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 tweet. Oh, wait. Maybe there's YouTube videos. YouTube. I have it. I know what's going on. And that's basically all I did, the whole show. So, yeah, that's about it. That's about all I want to talk about tonight. Just really wanted to recap the whole White Rabbit thing and where it's going. Clearly, it's Bray Wyatt. Again, like I said, at Extreme Rules, we may not get him in person, but it may be revealed that it's Bray in some capacity. And like I said, just compare it to when the Firefly Funhouse debuted, we had the vignettes of the Buzzard and Abby the Witch and stuff, and we didn't really know what that was all about, and it went on for 4 weeks before we got an actual Funhouse episode where Bray revealed himself. And then multiple Firefly Funhouse episodes before he actually showed up in the arena as the Fiend. So just know that at Extreme Rules, we may not get him in person, but we may have the reveal, but we may have to wait even longer for him through more stuff that's like vignettes or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. All I know is I'm excited for it. I'm interested. I want to see it. I want to see it. That's all I got for you folks. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. And now I'm going to get out of here. And I will catch you all down the road.